for all the listeners that are listening in on this one, this is a really, really exciting one. I met Jefferson a few years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Yep. I feel like we were just both kind of figuring it out, coming up at the same time. And funny story, I'll make it real quick, though, is that I read in your book, you walked up to Sam Taggart for the first time and you were super nervous. I don't know if you remember this, but when I walked in the building, I seen your big bald head. You're wearing a suit. Like, there's just some energy with this guy that I really like. Like, I'm going to get to know this guy. And I was super nervous. I didn't know anyone at the door-to-door conference. It was at the after party. You're out on the dance floor. I'm like, I'm just going to go up and talk to him.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, just you and I think you and your wife, maybe a couple other dudes are out there.
Yeah,
I pulled you off the side, started chatting with you. And I was like, here's my goal. She's like, no, dude, you're going to go to 5 million. It's like, he's like, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And so like, that's what like started the connection between Jefferson and I. But for y'all listeners, it's Jefferson Rogers. He's out of Utah. He runs JKR Windows. He's an author, one of my good friends, an absolute stud. He's got a great story that I think everyone in the every entrepreneur needs to hear from where he came from to where he's at today. And I just want to take the time to say, Jefferson, thanks for being here. And I appreciate it, man.
Right on, Jonas. Thank you so much for having me on, brother. We've been trying to put this together for a little while, so I'm glad we finally got it done.
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute. So real quick, just kind of tell us, I won't say real quick. Why don't you take us to like, I just got done reading your book, so it's hard to put it all in perspective. Like, I know the answers to a lot of the stuff, but like, kind of tell us your story, man. Like, don't give it too much details. Where I put the link for the book in the bio, so that everyone go get your book. It's an awesome read. I think everyone needs to read it. But just kind of just tell you like how you came up and like your story and kind of where you're at today.
So, I mean, you really got to read the book. I poured my heart and soul into that thing. It took me 2.5 years. And I had a guy ask me earlier why I wrote a book. And I had a mentor of mine tell me one time that we all have a unique story. Jonas has a unique story. I have a unique story. You have a unique story. And some people have more of a story to tell. Some people don't. But whatever your story is, there's other people on this planet. There's hundreds of millions of people on the planet that are going through similarities in their life. And your story, no matter what it is, can help, and people can relate to it, and you can make an impact. And I had a guy tell me one time that you've got a unique story, man, and it's your responsibility to tell it, because you were put here on this earth to make an impact. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just slowly started getting in the right groups and hanging around the right people. And it took me 3 different companies and 5 different ghostwriters, but I finally got it done. And I'm just a regular guy. You know, I was the oldest of 4 boys, blue collar upbringing. My parents divorced when I was 10 years old. We did the weekend thing with my dad. And my dad was a contractor and a firefighter, and my mom worked at financial institutions as mostly just like a support person, and didn't grow up around people that were successful or that made money. And I used to drive my bike around the neighborhoods of people that had the big houses and wonder what the hell all these people did. Like, how is there so many effing rich people? I didn't get it. But I think I still do that from
time to time.
Yeah, I still do. And it's interesting just the places that you can go and the belief systems that we have around our capabilities for our income and our growth and our progress in our businesses. And it wasn't very long ago that I was struggling with substance abuse. Drugs and alcohol were a regular thing for me since the time I was 13. And it controlled a big portion of my life and kept me from making progress for a lot of years. And in 2017, I got to another low, and there was many of them where I was close to throwing it all away, driving drunk and getting in fights and, just wreaking havoc.
Random headbutts?
Yeah, just randomly headbutted a guy for no reason. And if there was a reason, I don't remember it because I was too drunk. And almost threw it all away. And that was just one of many times that I almost threw it all away. And it was a shameful moment. and just an example to my family that I did not want to be anymore. Had some serious patching up to do with my wife and our relationship. And I decided that, very shortly after that I needed to make some changes. If I didn't make some changes to my environment, to my behaviors, to the things that I was doing, I would just keep repeating these things. And I had plenty of evidence that I was going to keep repeating these things, because that's all that kept happening, was just over and over and over. I kept putting myself through all this crap. So I joined a mentor program. And just like, Jonas has a similar story, joining a mentor program and getting around successful people and getting examples and recognizing that these are just regular people. Like, what is the difference between them and me? There is, they believed a little bit differently in themselves, and they've got a little bit more time and experience going down that path than I did. But I started to believe that different things were possible for me. And 2 months after I joined that mentor program, I made a commitment to my wife, after admitting for the first time out loud that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. And I was just able to flip the switch finally, after ups and downs and many struggles with drugs and alcohol. It doesn't just happen where you can just flip a switch. So there's a lot more to the story to this, but there was 20 years of substance abuse. Finally got to the point where I was able to make the commitment and admit that I had a problem and have a support system in place where I was able to get sober. And now I've been sober for almost 6 years. Started my business 2 months later. And man, I just been on a journey to improve myself and point all those same addictive tendencies in the direction of positivity and growth, and be able to utilize it, because it's such a powerful thing to have these addictive tendencies. If you can realize that you have the ability to point those in a specific direction. And now, 2023, I'm proud of what I've done. I've got an incredible relationship with my team at JKR Windows. I've written a book. My relationship with my wife and my kids is stronger than it's ever been. And it just keeps getting better, bro.
You guys have to read the book. There's so many details that we could talk about. I'll let the readers go find your book and listen to it after this. But at this time, you were just starting to knock doors for ABC Window, right?
Yeah.
But you weren't having a lot of fun. You didn't really like it at the time. You're just kind of just going through the motions. And then you got into Grant Cardone's stuff, which I think most of those guys all look up to Grant, right? And he's got a unique story, like a lot of us, like yourself, like myself. And I have so many friends that come from this similar background too. Like, they drank a lot or did drugs, and they're just going down the wrong path. And what seems like we all have ADHD, like our brains go all over the place. They just do. It's how we operate. And then also we get ultra focused on that one thing, and all of our energy, all of our ADHD, all the things that we thought was not a gift is now a gift, and it's ultra focus, and it just takes us to that next level. Like, we can't shut it off. Call it a gift or a curse. I don't know. A lot of people say it's a curse. I think it's a great gift that a lot of us have. But you got into this Grant Cardone coaching program. You started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, man, if he can do this, I can do this. And then you started to develop into your current work situation. Like, your sales went through the roof. Is that correct?
Yeah, dude. And all it was I was doing the same thing. It was over a very short period of time. Like, I already had the skills. I just had to develop the belief in myself and start having bigger targets and reverse engineering what those targets were. And now it's like a clear picture of how much activity I needed to go make $300,000 that year. It's like, holy shit, this ain't as hard as I thought it was going to be. All I got to do is go work.
Yeah. But then you probably started having more fun. You're already out there you're knocking the doors, you're doing the work. You might as well have fun and make a lot of money doing it, instead of just going through the motions and not making any deals. But how many times do you see that in the doors?
You know what? I was just talking to somebody about this, but it's one of the biggest challenges we have in sales in general, but door to door even more, is the battle that we have with our mind every day. And if you can get to a place where you can enjoy what you're doing, and just the interactions that you have and the opportunities that you have to make an impact on people's lives and serve people and bring value, man, it totally changes the game. And I went from dreading what I did on a daily basis to now getting a little taste of what it looked like to enjoy myself and to be focused on goals, which kept my mind off of the monotony and the job itself, and more on, man, I have a path now. Like, I have a direction. I've got this target in front of me, and all I got to do is just execute.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You brought up belief real quick. How much of this life do you think is belief alone versus skill?
Man, I've seen some people come in and very early on with no experience be able to have some success because they were plugged into a system and they were instilled with belief about what they were offering and the value that they were bringing. And like, outside of that, all they were doing was just following a script, like very little skill. That's some natural skill and some charisma, and they were able to hold a conversation. But man, if you can believe in something, if you're at a place right now, whether it's doing pest control or you're selling roofs or you're selling furniture, if you don't believe in what you're doing and in the value that you're bringing to customers, I don't care how good you are, how much charisma you have, dude, you're not going to be able to be successful. You're not going to be able to make a high six-figure income, because we've both experienced this and seen so many examples of it. When you can get bought in and you are just all in and wherever you're at, how people can just ramp it up. And all of a sudden, their belief level, like all their skills are the same. They look the same. Everything else is the same. But now they just started believing on a whole new level about what they were doing, the value, and in the team and in the culture of the company that they were at. And boom, somebody explodes. And then we see the exact opposite too. And then somebody loses their belief. And all of a sudden, the top performer he lost his belief and his conviction, and his enthusiasm is lacking at the doors now. And everybody can tell. And now his numbers are in the tank.
Yeah. That's what I always tell my guys. I'm like, everything you do in life, it's 90% belief and 10% skill. As long as you believe you can do it and have 10% of the skills, you can go anywhere you want to. That's at every phase of life. Every level that we get to, there's always another level. But so we always hit those little roadblocks. But as long as you believe in yourself, you can do it. So now you're knocking doors. You doing $300,000 in the first year. Then you decide, oh shit, like, I have bigger dreams. I want to be a part of ABC company, but now I have bigger dreams to go do something else. But now I have to convince my wife to move back to my hometown or somewhere go back to. Like, how do you go from knocking doors to starting a business within a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Like, you went from making $300,000 a year, let's be honest, like back down to zero, maybe even a little bit in the red.
Yep.
And that's, a lot of people won't do that.
It was a big commitment. And you know what? It had a lot to do with, because listen, entrepreneurship, business ownership is not for everybody. Going back to zero and the risk that's involved, the hours and the commitment and the sacrifice, the time away from my family, I don't think most people are capable of doing it. And that's why most people don't last in business. But there's a level of commitment. And one of the things I read about in the book, it's not all about entrepreneurship. It's about going all in whatever you're doing. And when I was working for ABC Windows, it was, man, I love those guys. I still love them. They were my mentors. They changed my effing life, dude. So grateful for those freaking guys. But I had just lost my vision of the future with them. I didn't think they were going anywhere. And whether I could communicate that at the time, it was just a feeling that I had. It's like, I don't think that I can accomplish the things that I want to accomplish if I stay here. And it was pretty apparent to me when I'm getting on some of the sales calls and I'm all excited, dude. I'm having my best month ever. I made more money than I've ever made. And I'm talking about the things that I'm doing and writing my goals and the activity. And the feeling I got was, you just need to slow your fucking roll, dude. And I was kind of getting suppressed a little bit. Like, that, it was making everybody look themselves in the mirror about the things they weren't doing. So if you've got that, if you want to turn things up and you're in the wrong type of environment, it'll be very apparent very quickly, because it's going to make everybody uncomfortable. But if you're in the right environment that's conducive for that type of activity and growth, and people want you to win and they want to encourage you and fire you up and pour into you, that's going to be very apparent as well. So, dude, I love having an environment like that in business, where that's what I was going out of that business and into a business with all these feelings that I was lacking from there, and what I wanted to create in the service that we were going to provide, the culture, this 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 concept of developing people. And now I say, it's evolved over time, but JKR Windows is a people development company, and we just ended up in the replacement window industry.
That's fire. So was it when you moved back home? Is it just you knocking doors by yourself? Did you bring a team with you? Did you recruit a small team? Or how did the JKR Windows start?
Buddy.
Just you?
Just me.
Love it. Same.
I was all in.
Yeah.
I was going to make it work. And I had my best 2 months ever in personal production with that other company, the 2 months before I left. And then I just basically took everything that those guys were doing and applied it to my business. And then all the other things that I was never able to apply while there, that they weren't really open to or ready for yet. So, and then I had my best month ever, my first month in business in personal production I made some jankety freaking business cards. I had no website. I had no credibility, no marketing materials, but I believed so much in what I was creating and the service and the value that I was going to bring to my customers that people just saw it and they could feel it. And I didn't even have, I barely had bank accounts set up. I didn't know how any of this stuff worked. And I didn't have financing. I had to collect 50% down on everything. It was crazy. But I was committed, dude. I was going to make it work. And you're right. I had to go backwards, and I was scared to death about, dude, this is now my livelihood, my family, putting food on the table. Is this going to work? And when I went out there and had that big month and collected 50% down on everything and built that cushion, and now I've got enough to order all the windows and fulfill on all these customers, I just little by little started building more and more belief that it was possible and that I was cut out for this. And never would I have imagined back then starting what we have accomplished now. Back then, I just wanted to beat the other company. That's all I wanted to do. And now it's crazy what the potential is.
I agree. So back then, were you doing the fulfillment side, or were you subbing that out to another contractor?
So yeah, I did I did everything except install windows. And the one thing that I never wanted to sacrifice on was the quality for my customers and the service that I was going to offer. So the first thing I did is I went out and I made a bunch of sales before I ever even had an installer to install the windows. And then this is a cool example.
I love it.
If you want to go start a business, you got to get the sales done first before anybody that's going to be able to bring you value is going to take you seriously. Because I could have gotten some Joe Schmo handyman to install windows for me, but I would have got a crappy job. But I went and found the very best installer that I could possibly find, and probably the top 3 best installers. I went and met with all of them, looked at all their jobs, made sure that they were going to meet the quality and had the attention to detail that I was going to require for my customers. And I told them all that I had 10 jobs waiting to get measured. And they all were like, you have 10 jobs right now? I was like, yeah, I got all the work orders. I just need you to go and measure them. I just wanted to make sure that you're a good fit. And the other 2 guys didn't meet the standards, but the guy that was truly the best, him and his son were installing windows, and they were known across the whole state of Utah, because they've been doing this for 30 years, that they were the best. And slowly but surely, they quit doing all of the other shit that they were doing and came and worked for me full time.
Unreal. So this is year 1 you went from 0 to what in your first year?
I did 1.2 million in sales the first year.
That's baller.
I was pretty excited.
And so a lot of people listen to this, so they get stuck, right? Your book is about getting unstuck, but a lot of people get stuck at 250,000, 500,000, $1 million. There's all these places to get stuck at. But you were really good at selling, so you break those barriers. What would you say to the people who are trying to get unstuck like that? They're just stuck in those at those levels,
No matter where you're at and what stage of your journey that you're in, one of the most important things for me as I reflect back and kind of recognize what helped me build confidence and build momentum. You've got to keep the promises to yourself. You make commitments, and most of us, we give ourselves a pass. And most of the time, like it's little things that nobody else knows about. So it's the easiest. Like you've never made a commitment out loud to get up early. So nobody's going to know if you sleep in that you had made a commitment to get up early. Nobody's going to know if you're not reading regularly or writing your goals down or making that Facebook post and getting yourself uncomfortable and doing things that you said you were going to do, but nobody's watching, nobody knows. So it's easy to give yourself a pass. And if you can, no matter what stage you're at in your career, just start there. Recognize when you're not keeping those little promises and quit. And if you miss a day, who cares? But don't let it turn into 2 or 3 days. And that was something that I remember vividly, looking over at my alarm clock after I had just hit snooze an hour and a half earlier, and now it's 9:30 and the sun's up. And I just started to let it bother me more than it had ever bothered me before, that I didn't keep that promise to myself. And there was my goal book right there next to my nightstand. And I just written down the night before that I'm going to beat the sun up, but I didn't beat the sun up. And then I just started compounding on that. And I started keeping those promises. And then I started actively talking about all the things that I wanted to do and the goals that I was making. And man, most people I know are people of integrity, and they want to be a person that's known for doing what they say they're going to do. But you got to start, and you got to start keeping those promises. And you don't realize the confidence that comes from that.
It's the small little wins, right?
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't have to be nothing big. Like I said, get up before the sun comes up. But and I think about like this morning, like I had my wife's family was in town. Like they're all staying at my house, but they're leaving this morning to head back to Florida. And it's like, do I not go to the gym? Do I go to the gym? Like I haven't missed the gym in forever. Like I was conflicted, but I didn't want to like not say goodbye to them. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to get up early. So I got up early, like 4:30 this morning, or 4 o'clock this morning, went to the gym real quick, got 22 minutes actually, but I did it. Then I came back, I jumped on your book and crushed your book before everyone else pretty much woke up. But it's the small little things. Like I didn't really want to get out of bed at that point, but I made a commitment to myself that I had to get the book done, but I still had to get to the gym. So yeah, it's like, we don't want to always do those things, but just forcing yourself to go do them. It's the small little wins like that to start your day. They just compound over time.
And that's a great habit too, because 5 years ago, you may not have been that disciplined.
Not at all.
Because you don't always want to do it. Like I didn't always want to get up early. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning. Goddamn, I'm freaking tired. I got 6 hours of sleep. But I've already prepared myself, and I've made the commitments, and I've made a promise to myself that I'm an example to my wife, to my kids. I've made commitments for my health and my longevity and for my company, and to have everything that I need. I can't break any promises to myself. And I didn't have that 5 years ago. But over time, those little wins, even though there has been little missteps, I never let it turn into a week. And I kept the streak going. And over time, it builds confidence, and it compounds, and you build momentum. And you look back over time, and I'll bet you can do the same thing. Like look back over 5 years of where you were and that experience that we had together. And I remember vividly because you were trying to get yourself out of your comfort zone. And I was in a very similar place. It's like, God, I know that just staying comfortable and staying on the sidelines and watching shit happen isn't how it happens. I got to get myself out there, and I got to introduce myself to people. And there's a guy right there that has some energy and some enthusiasm and is hanging out with all these people that I want a piece of that. And you went after it. And dude, it's so cool to be able to recollect back on those frames of mind and the insecurities that we had and how far that we've came. And it didn't ever seem like it was happening as fast as we wanted it to. But you look back at over all that time, and it's like, dude, it was happening. This feels so good. Like I've been making progress.
Yeah. And like even putting yourself like back to spending the money to go to Sam's stuff. Like it's a big commitment. Like when we're first just starting out, it's a lot of money. Like, man, are we gonna make it through this? Like it's a hefty price tag.
It was.
But man, I can't tell you what, that whole year, like 6 months, or I think it was a year of experience, I could net like how much money the value that's given me and my company, and how it we took off like a rocket ship. Like how there was like people like, you spent how much money on that? I'm like, XYZ, right? Like that is crazy. But I promise you, Jefferson, the week that we got back from all that, putting all that structure together, our first week we did that much revenue. It was like it blew the doors off. But I wasn't a door-to-door guy. I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't know anything about door-to-door. I was just I was going out knocking doors because COVID hit, and in Michigan we got shut down. So I started driving 2.5 hours to Green Bay every single day to Wisconsin so that I could just have a business again. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like I couldn't work here, so I had to go work somewhere. I didn't know how to knock a door. I didn't have a clue. I mean, I watched everything on YouTube that I could figure out, would listen to all the trainings while I was driving down there at 4:00 in the morning. I remember walking up to my first door. I almost threw up. Like I was so nervous. Walked away, took a breath, walked back up. And the first door that I knocked, I sold. I mean, it was to lay me down. I'm not going to lie. But it just happened to be the first door, right? Like, and then I was like, oh my God, I can do this. And then so I'm figuring it out, getting sales here and there, not knowing what the hell I'm doing, just from what I learned on YouTube. And then so I had maybe 50 to 100 sales. That's when I joined Sam's group, came out there, came back. And by the end of, that was July, August, we started. By the end of September, we had 450 accounts. I was like, okay, now we're on to something. And that's when I started, okay, now I know now I learned how to build a team. Like I honestly, I didn't even know how much I should have been charging for pest control at the time. I didn't know how much commissions work. I didn't have a clue about contracts. I was clueless. So that's where I started the door-to-door thing. Yep. So that's I literally had no idea. But so just taking the leap, say I'm going to spend this money to best myself. Just I believe in myself. Yeah. And then just, run across guys like you. And I felt your energy, like I said. And I was like, there's just something about this guy that I really like. Like you can tell he's going to do big things. And I was like, give out great energy. I'm like, I just have to go talk to him. And I remember you gave me a pep talk, on the dance, no, you're going to go do this thing. And I was like, all right, sweet. I'm going to do it. So I 10X my goals right then and there. And what are we 3-4 years later? Here we are talking about those goals that are in the past. So crazy.
That's awesome, dude. You never know who it's going to work on.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to a lot of people, and you can lay it all out for them and give them everything that they need and put them up there, build as much belief as you can. But, a lot of people don't do it. They don't end up taking action. And you just chose to take action and get straight to work. And I think I mentioned that earlier. It's just like when I had some advice, when Sam told me to do something, I was doing it that day. When I've had lots of mentors, I've read a lot of things in books. And if something resonates and if it applies to your situation, don't wait till tomorrow. It's starting right now.
I had that conversation this morning with a person that I know. One of my friends texted me. She's like, yeah, I was going to go to the gym, but I was going to wait till Monday. I'm like, don't wait till Monday. Go today. She's like, well, I can't because I'm like, no, you can. Just go today. And she's finally like, okay, I'll go today then. But it's simple things like that. Don't wait because a week turns into a day turns into a week turns into a month. The next thing, we wait another year to get things done, and no one ever just take the action and go do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this at all, but I had my team. I'm like, you guys have to hear this story. You guys need to learn from this guy. And I called you up Jefferson, hey, will you do a training with my guys?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, absolutely. So we all stopped at lunch, and I had 10 guys all piled in 3 vans, and you sat there and did a training for us. And there's a few people that I can think of off the top of my head, like Matt, that resonated so well with your story. It lit him up like a rocket ship again. But you probably didn't know that after the call, but he's like, oh my God, this dude's awesome. My story is similar to his. I can do what he did. And he took off like a bat out of hell. It's unreal.
It's incredible. That's the impact that you can make, man. If you keep it all in, if you've got shame and guilt that's keeping you from talking about your story, it can't make an impact. And I did early on because it was heavy on me. It weighed on me. I was not proud of the things that I had done. But over time, you you make progress, you get more comfortable talking about your story and the things that you've done and what you've overcame. And now, it's so cool to be able to make an impact on people's lives and just share genuinely about the stuff that I've been through and to see people light up.
Yeah. How hard was it to tell the world like about all your addiction problems that you had in the past?
It was hard, man. Like I didn't speak one word of it for the first 18 months after I got sober. And it was awkward because people were asking me, because they knew me as a partier and a drinker, and I was smoking pot every day. And they're asking me, does this make you uncomfortable? Like when we're having drinks around you? And I didn't know how to respond. I was so uncomfortable. It was so unfamiliar to me. I was just trying to keep my calendar full and stay preoccupied. So I was scared to death I was going to go back there. And then I had an opportunity to talk to somebody. And it was like the spark that helped me realize that I needed to process it. I needed to talk about it. I needed to figure out a way to get it out. It was like it was weighing on me. And I told somebody my story. And they're like, wait, you just quit like cold turkey? Like you wouldn't even have a drink or a taste? Like, no. And that guy, he messaged me on Instagram or Facebook like a year later after just sharing with that story with him. And he's like, dude, I don't know if you remember me, but you changed my life. I went home and decided to quit drinking, and it's been a year now. And I just wanted to thank you.
So you probably don't know this either, but after all the events, we played golf at, where were we at? Like at, what do they call that out there? Those golf things you guys have, the golf simulators?
Yeah, the Top Golf.
Top Golf. Yeah, we're at Top Golf, and they brought a bunch of drinks. And there were a bunch of us all standing around. They're bringing out drinks. And I had a beer. And then I went to go have my second beer. I started to take a drink. And I looked around, I'm like, what the hell? Like all these drinks that they brought out are still here. And I'm so used to going to events and like after the event, having a good old time drinking. And I just looked around at the room. I'm like, no one was drinking. I was like, this is odd. I'm not used to this. And I was like, there's something to this. There's all these high energy people still working on their business after hours. They're not drinking. They're not partying. They're staying focused. Left that night. Never had a drink ever since. That was almost 3.5, 4 years ago.
No kidding.
So just like, so meeting Sam and being part of that group changed my life more than anyone would ever even know. And maybe there's a thing about the Utah, like people just didn't drink out there, like because they're Mormon. Like I get all that, but it's still like, it's like there's something to this. And I just got ultra focused after that. Just like not having those hangovers for 2-3 days. Not that I had a drinking problem, but I would drink and then the next day I'd feel like shit. The day after that, like I'd be talking, I'd forget what I was saying. And just all these things started compounding. Like, and I was like, it has to do with what I was doing, like in my spare time. And I was having a few drinks here and there and just wearing down on my mind, I just wasn't taking good care of myself. And so it was absolutely incredible experience for me.
Well, you look like you're taking care of yourself now, dude. You're looking really good.
Yeah, you too. So let's go back. So now we're after year 1 to 1.2 million. Tell a story from year 2 to year, like what year are we in now? Like year 4 or 5? You've been doing this 6 years now?
Yeah, this is the 5th year, coming up on 6 years in March.
Congratulations. So walk us through the next few years and how you scaled. It's impressive.
You know what? It was 2020. I met Sam. I had just done $2 million in 2019. So we doubled over the first year. Felt really good. And man, I think it all comes back to the level of the goals and then the activity and the action plan that you put together after reverse engineering what it's going to take to reach that goal. So I hit exactly what I was going for at 1 million. I hit exactly what I was going for the second year. Doubling seemed like a great goal. But in the third year, things changed because of the perspective of other people and a new belief about what was possible. Because I ran into a guy at one of Sam's events that had done $6 million was his best year. And just regular guy.
Roofing. What was he doing?
He was doing replacement windows also. So it was just a chance meeting. We're at this event with like 2,000 people at one of Sam's events. And there's a lot of pest control, solar, alarms. There's a lot of other industries. Replacement windows is not one of them. And we may have been the only two guys there that did replacement windows out of 2,000 people. And I just happened to run into him. He was the first person I talked to. So just like you came over and talked to me, I was nervous. And I hadn't been to events like this before. I was carrying around my notepad and I was trying to get as much as possible, but I wasn't a networker. I wasn't as confident as I am now to just go up and initiate a conversation. And so the very first person I talked to, his name was Jared. He was wearing an Arte Syndicate hat. It had a gold emblem on it.
Yeah.
And I went and asked him what that symbol was, because I was like, I know I've seen that before, but I can't remember what it is. And he told me about, hanging out with Andy Frisilla and Ed Milet and how it's changed his life. And the guy standing next to him was one of his employees. And I had actually just been in their office like 2 weeks earlier because I was going in there to try and recruit one of their guys. Somebody had told me about him and I looked him up and I was just going to go try and find him. It's like, how else do you find him? I couldn't find him on Instagram, couldn't find him on LinkedIn. I was just going to go to their office, see if I could find him. And he's like, how do I know you? I was like, I don't know. I get that all the time, dude. Everybody thinks I look like their cousin or their brother or something. He's like, no, dude, you're that guy that came into our office a few weeks ago. I was like, what? And then I put it together. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, you guys are from that window company. Like, what are the chances? And then I learned that they had done 6 million. And instead of doubling again to 4 million, which was my original plan for 2020, I changed my goal to 6 million as soon as he told me that his best year was 6 million. It's like, why not? Like, this guy's done it. Why not me? Then later on that day, he told me that his new goal was 10 million. So I changed my goal to 10 million. So in the same day, my goal went from 4 to 6 to 10 million. And that's the same day that I met Sam Taggart. And I went and told Sam what had just happened. And I was like, bro, I got some big plans. I did 2 million last year. I'm hopeful that the business is going to continue growing. And I've got a goal to do $10 million in 2020. And just having the goal and then committing to that consulting program with Sam. And it was a big freaking investment that most people, same thing that you've experienced, is like, are you crazy? Like, I didn't even have the money.
I put it on a credit card.
I put it on 2 credit cards. But I was committed to making it happen. And it changed my life because I not only had a big goal, but now I had a support system. I had somebody putting things into perspective for me about what it was going to take. And you got to not only have the goal, but you got to reverse engineer what it's going to take to hit that goal. And then start today on your activities and your actions to start moving in the direction of that goal. And we went from 2 million in 2019 to like 10.4 million in 2020. And we did exactly what we planned on doing.
So COVID was good to you.
It was extremely good to us.
When you, let's just go back to March of 2020, right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
Were you guys still knocking? Did you guys hold off for a bit? What did you guys do there?
Yeah. You know what? This is, there will be more challenging times. COVID, it caught everybody off guard. Now, if you get caught off guard again, it's your own damn fault.
Absolutely.
Because we know it's coming. Something else is coming. And who knows when it's going to be or what it's going to be or how serious. But I want to be the kind of leader that's prepared and that has planted the seeds with my people so they know that something's coming and we're all prepared mentally and we're ready to turn it back up. Because in 2020, I completely caught off guard. Like, I now had a $10 million goal that was being threatened by this COVID bullshit. And I knew right from the get-go, like, whether it was real or not, I was refusing to believe that it was real. Just all the signs to me and the way that they were positioning it. And I don't trust the freaking media anyways. And And on March 17th, I called an emergency meeting after everything started coming out, and all of my employees are wondering if we're going to do what the media is telling us to do. And I said, absolutely not. Anybody who wants to go home can consider themselves without a job. And we're going to get better. We're going to work harder. We're going to do more. We're going to be in a different environment than we've ever been in before. So we're going to be forced to have more skills and to work harder and to be more available. And I got a commitment from everybody that we weren't going to give in. We were going to push through. We were going to scoop up some market share, and we were going to come out this thing better than we were before. And we were still able to hit that $10 million goal, besides, all of the challenges and the hurdles and the threats and the government trying to impose their will on us. And it all comes back to just being prepared. I told you when we started this call that I fucking stay ready. And I wasn't sure if I was ready then, but I didn't want to give in, dude. I didn't want to give it all up.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure what to do. Like, I was in the same mindset as you were. I think I was still winning like 20 some flights that year. I was the only one on a plane from here to Minnesota, but Michigan was literally shut down. Like, you couldn't even go fishing by yourself. It was you couldn't do anything. The cops were rolling around looking for people. Like, maybe not so much in the town that I'm currently from. Because it's a little bit, it's smaller. But yeah, everywhere you were going, like they were literally looking for you, ticketing people. And so I was like, I don't know what to do. So I waited a few months, which hindsight 2020, obviously I wish I wouldn't have, but I did. I waited till like June or July. I can't remember exact dates. That's when I started going to Wisconsin. And then what I found out, 98% of the people there were happy to talk to someone and just happy to see other people.
Yeah.
Did you find the same thing in Utah? Which I think Utah didn't really get shut down as much, right?
You know what? It's completely different circumstances. Like in Utah, it was almost like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it was weird.
In March, there was like everybody was scared. We got guns pulled on us, and it was like we were working in these rural towns, and everybody's preparing for the apocalypse. And it was scary. But every morning we were meeting and preparing for it and talking about the things that we ran into and just kind of mentally preparing ourselves for what we may run into. And the great thing about it, though, was that everybody was home. And once you had that realization that, wow, most people are pretty receptive. And now everybody is home.
Yeah, and we found the same thing for us. And we cleaned house. Like I said, again, hindsight 2020, I wish we would have started in March, but we didn't. But again, we found on the doors, everyone's home. Everyone's happy to see. Like, there was people signing up with us because we weren't wearing masks. Like, that's what we found in Wisconsin. It was like the greatest thing ever. But in Michigan, at that time, you still couldn't do anything. So I didn't have a choice. Like, I was either going to go out of business because at that time it still plowed snow. We came off of winter, which we didn't get any snow. So like most of the savings are already gone. Then March comes and now COVID hits and we can't work. I was like, well, I'm going to go out of business. So I didn't have a choice. So I back against the wall and I just started driving and figuring it out. But I think, like I said, then it was a perfect storm though. Like, it couldn't happen at a better time. Like, it forced me out of my hometown. It forced me to get uncomfortable. It forced me to change, my beliefs about myself. Like, it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me personally. Like, I didn't have a network. I didn't have a network to rely on, which most of us, we grow up where we, grow up and then we know everyone in the town and we use those connections, which is great. But when you get forced to go outside of your town, you don't know anyone, you really find out what you're made of.
Yeah. I was just talking to a friend of mine about that last night. He had a similar experience when he moved from his hometown. He made a commitment and his business exploded. Didn't know a single person. And there's something to be said. I heard Grant Cardone say this on a post that he was doing a little interview with his brother Gary. And he asked Gary how important he thinks it was for him to get out of their hometown. And there's so many examples of this. You got to get uncomfortable. When I first started to make some decisions differently than I was making, the first thing I did was leave my hometown. I left to go to Arizona to get the hell out of the same environment that I was in, because I didn't have the discipline. I had all these habits and these patterns that were repeating, and I didn't have the discipline to change it. So what better way than to get out of your comfort zone and to go someplace with the commitment to change your life, just like you did, man. You drove across state lines and you were committed to change your life and to keep making progress. And look what happened.
So how many offices do you guys have now?
So we've got 2 offices, and we'll do close to 25 million in sales this year. And I've got another office that's opening in Colorado in a few months. We got an up and coming leader that's phenomenal. Really excited about that. But we're currently serving customers in 8 different states, and we just operate out of our 2 offices. So, similar to the pest control industry, there's a lot of traveling that happens.
I think we had this conversation a few months back. We jumped on a quick
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. And dude, it's cool how we can impact each other and open our eyes and change our perspective to what's possible when we relate what we do to other people's structures.
Right.
And I've learned a lot from you, even just in our little conversations. And that's, something that's important in business and in continuing to make progress is there's always an opportunity to learn. Like if you're talking to a gas station attendant or your aunt or your grandma or a friend that's in a completely different industry, one of the things that I've noticed about myself that isn't all that common is I'm always like very intently listening and trying to find something in what we're talking about that I can be interested in for you. So that I care about you and we're having this connection right now. I'm not getting distracted, but also I'm looking for something that from your experiences and the things that you do, how that may apply to my situation, what I can take away from our conversation and apply to my life. And in that conversation that we had, dude, immediately I took some notes and I called my COO and I was like, what if we tried this, bro? My buddy Jonas is in the pest control industry, and this is how he has his things structured, and this is how he starts offices, and the training that he has and the expectations and he has them just start out of a freaking garage. Dude, I took so much notes and so much came from that one conversation. It was awesome.
And it's so incredible because it's so doable, but people just can't wrap their brain around it, or they're afraid to go do it. But again, like your book says, you're all in, just take immediate action.
That's it, dude.
And it's other than that, there's not really much to it. Just learn, right? Put yourself in a good position to learn, be a sponge, read, find mentors, find friends like yourself, like you bounce ideas off of, and believe in yourself. That's all there is to this.
It really is, man. Yep. There's been thousands of books written, thousands of examples of people that have came from mediocre backgrounds and produced incredible results for themselves. And all you got to do is just believe that it's possible for you too. And then gather up some of those resources, surround yourself with some of those people, and take a little piece from each one of those examples that you feel like apply to your life and just emulate it.
Yeah. And like thinking back to like the one decision to join Sam's group, it was obviously very impactful for me, but not only that, but the relationships that we built from you to Sam. There's lists of names and I don't want to forget any, but it's just like picking up the phone and be like, hey, like, how do you do this? Or, hey, how do you do that? Like, what are you guys doing here? Like, it's dumb tax, right? Like it's a phone call away to have that friend who's been there and done it, doing 25, 30 million, like you're just trying to chase down. And like, it's so important to just make those big connections in your life.
Sure is, man. Yep. There was a lot that came out of it. You're right. Like the systems, the processes, the core values, the new perspective on what a business could look like from somebody who had experienced it and been a part of a lot of businesses and helped develop businesses. So that changed everything. But I think as important or probably more important because of the value that you can get out of a relationship over a freaking lifetime is all of those relationships and the connections and just being interested in people. Like I could have very well said, yep, slapped your hand and said, fucking busy, Jonas. when you came to introduce yourself. But I love those interactions, dude. And I tried to, it was loud as shit in there. And me and you were just fucking huddled up, and I'm trying to hear everything that you said. And I'm trying to let you know that I care and I want to make an impact. And sure as shit, some people it's going to, some people it's not. It just happened to make an impact that night.
Yeah, I felt like that's what I've done good at. If I were to put myself, like, give myself a pat on the back, is intentionally put myself out there to learn and get to know people, and like just not be afraid. Of course, we're all going to be afraid, like you said, like we have the goosebumps and feel like your stomach's gonna throw up or whatever. But just go do it. Like, just go talk to him. Like, after that, like, you could have told me no, but you didn't. I was like, thank God that I did that. Now, like I said, what, 3-4 years later, whatever it is, like, here we are on a podcast together. Like, it's that one decision, one small decision. That, you have that person on your one shoulder that's telling you don't go do it. The other guy's telling you go do it. Just lean to the guy that says go do it. Right? Lean away from the other guy. But that one small decision changed my life forever. Like, no, you're gonna 10x your goals, dude. You're gonna go hit 5 million. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Let's do this thing. And then now we have 6 offices, opening 3 more in the spring, and then we're projected to sell 12 more next year. So by next year we could have 20 offices. So we will have 20 offices. That's our goal.
Incredible, dude. Proud of you, man.
What is the goal for JKR Windows in the next 5 years?
So we got a $200 million goal. We'll do close to $25 million this year.
So awesome. And
we got a goal to do $200 million in a calendar year. And there's no question in my mind that we're going to do it. We've got a strong team. We got a great foundation. We've built an incredible culture that just continues to get better. You got to go check out this YouTube video that just came out. Just search JKR Windows or Jefferson K. Rogers on YouTube. And I just did a leadership retreat with my people in Bear Lake, Idaho. And every year we'll do a leadership retreat and get people together. I had somebody ask me, it's like, how is that a leadership retreat? Because it's like a highlight video of all the cool shit we did. And there's team builder, there's a cold plunge, we did yoga, and there's a lot of concepts that we're talking about for leadership and communication and advancing the company and talking about our goals. But the biggest thing is that we're growing, we're keeping our morals and our ethics and our core values at the top of the list. There's some things that we are not going to sacrifice at JKR Windows. We want to have a cool environment for people to be a part of and change lives, whether it's the lady at the front desk that's answering phones and the impact that we can have on her life, to the guy that was painting stripes on roads 2 years ago, and he's going to make 7 figures with my company this year. It's such a cool opportunity to impact people's lives.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. Again, we're going to have the link in the episode. Everyone, I encourage everyone to go read this thing. You said it took away 2.5 months?
2.5 years.
2.5 years? Damn.
2.5 years of just pushing through, dude. I worked with 3 different companies and 5 different ghostwriters. It was a lot of work, a lot of phone calls, a lot of edits and revisions. I just got done recording the Audible version too. It's going to be freaking awesome.
Oh, that's so awesome. Version. Like, so I looked for it, of course, so like I'm at the gym, like I got to get a head start on this book. Wasn't there yet. So that's really cool.
Not quite ready. Just doing the final revisions on that.
Cool. How's that been?
It was awesome, dude. Like, yeah. I've always had these insecurities about my reading, because when I was a kid, I didn't retain information very well. And then I just wasn't sure what it was from. And I've always kind of gotten down on myself about the speed that I read and my retention, but I became a reader. And over the past 5 years, I've read hundreds of books. And so sitting down to read that thing for the first time, it's funny how some of those thoughts come back up. And this is my first Audible. It's my first book. And now I've got some of these limiting beliefs still floating around in there. Like, I don't know if you can read this fast enough, bro. I don't know. And then I started getting some momentum and my enthusiasm starts coming out. And it's me telling my story. And you can tell, like, when you read it, there's some personality in there. Like, this is me. This is all me. And it's basically just my recordings transcribed and structured inside of a book. And now when I'm reading it, dude, it's like the enthusiasm coming out, all of my personality, my charisma, my F-bombs, dude. It's fucking awesome.
So cool. What I really like, one of the things that stuck out to me in the book too is, and it's simple. Like when you kept walking past the glass door, you kept looking over at the guy, and he was always smiling, but you're kind of just like mean mugging him. Maybe not mean mugging him, but not smiling back. And you're like, he came into your office and he asked you what's going on, and you talked about you not smiling. Like that one change from one person that made you like, oh man, I wasn't really self-aware that I wasn't smiling. Now you're smiling all the time. Like, was that hard to learn?
It was, dude. It was. Just,
I couldn't imagine you not smiling at this point.
I know. Now it's like people can't imagine any of the shit that's in the book and the person that I used to be just because of the work that I've done and who I became. But yeah, it's such a cool analogy. And it's interesting that I remember that. And I'm sure there's things that you remember, like, why the hell do I remember that? Because there's been so many things that have happened. Years and years have gone by since then. And so many different things have happened to me. But I remember those little moments that, for one, they pissed me off. Like he called me out on something that I wasn't ready to hear yet. It's like, what the fuck, dude? The way that he said it, like, wasn't all that tactful. And it just like rubbed me the wrong way. But I remember it because I looked at myself in the mirror that day. And I can be kind of an intimidating dude.
Yeah. You're not small, that's for sure.
When I show up on the door and I've got the intimidating look on my face.
What are you, 6'3", 6'4"?
Thank you, but I'm only 6 foot.
Everyone's 6'4" to me.
But yeah, dude, it was tough because I hadn't had that practice and I hadn't had that awareness, and I didn't realize at that point in my career how important it was to have that type of impression on people. And then I started for the first time being aware of it. And I was like, wait a sec. Like, I do like how I feel when I'm around these people that smile. And so I would just turn my mirror down in the car and I used to have this little sideways smile and only this side would go up.
Same. Not a lie. Like all the way up till 8th grade.
Yeah.
Just a sideways little smirk.
I was into my 20s before I ever started working on it. But it's been cool to see not only that, but all the other progress and all those other like aha moments and a change of perspective and somebody sticking themselves out there a little bit to give me a little piece of advice or criticize me in a way that I needed to hear. And I just love having people in my life like that aren't afraid to tell me how it is and what I need to hear and how I show up for them that I could make some adjustments on.
Did you always want to be an author?
No. Never would have thought of myself or aspired to be an author before I got into business and started hanging out with other people that were writing books.
I'm glad you did it.
What's that?
I said, I'm really glad that you did it. It was very inspiring.
Thanks, brother.
I think, again, every entrepreneur should read this book because we all have a similar story to that. But put it in a book, like, puts it in perspective. Like, man, like, I've been through all the same shit. I can do the same exact thing.
Yeah. And why not you, man?
Why not me, right? That's what I tell everyone. Why not me? I couldn't agree with that statement more. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of being a father and a husband. And I almost threw it all away, man.
Yeah, your wife's always been there since I've known you. She's on a lot of your videos. Probably your biggest supporter ever. But and she's been through a lot of shit with you. I'm assuming just from the book. How important has she been to your life?
Man, I wouldn't be where I'm at. She's the ultimate supporter. She has nothing but love and support. And I've challenged that in so many ways just because of my insecurities and my lack of trust. And that some of the traumas from my life and my upbringing, my parents' 6 divorces. But without her belief in me and for her presence in my life, for somebody that I can go out and do difficult things for, like put myself through some crazy things. People won't do it just for themselves. And I've noticed that, and I'm sure you have also, especially in sales, that the people that do the best are the people that have the most riding on it. So you gotta find something. If you don't have a family yet, if you don't have a wife to fight for, you got to find something. And for me, it's been so important to have her in my life for that motivation and that extra fire. She gives me so much energy. And when things aren't good, it's like equally as detrimental to my progress when we're not on the same page and we're not, and our relationship ain't working. So we put a lot of work into it, man. It's been 13 years, been through a lot of ups and downs. I've put her through some absolute hell. She's been nothing but a supporter and an angel in my life. And yeah, forever grateful for that woman.
My next question is, what drives you? But it might have just gave me the answer.
Yeah.
Outside of that, what drives you?
So outside of that, being a leader and making an impact on people's lives fires me up. My first experience with that was when I was working for that other company, and I got to take what I had learned and instill some belief and influence this guy in a way that was going to change his life forever. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was kind of just selfishly, getting out of it what I thought I needed. But now looking back at how his life has changed, the impact that I made, and all of the people since then, that's what I found in the door-to-door industry and in replacement windows that I could get fired up about. Is, dude, there's nothing like being able to take what you've learned and the experiences that you've had that make you uniquely qualified to help people, and then being intentional about sharing those things and instilling belief in people and inspiring people to accomplish more than they thought that they were capable of. And leadership, we're lacking leadership in the United States. And it's sad to see the direction that this country is going with all the focus on social media, and fucking everybody thinks there's an easy button for everything. And we're all focused on the wrong shit. Nobody's talking about like core values and being a good person and having integrity, or very few are anyways. It's all focused on entertainment. But I want to make an impact, or just being inundated with being busy because you're so focused on surviving.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's fire.
But yeah, leadership fires me up, man. I used to be a terrible leader, wasn't sure what to do or how to do it, lacked patience, blew a lot of people out of the water. But I love being able to help people and make an impact, and that's fulfilling right there.
It's awesome. I know I'm running out of time with you, so I'll end it with, I know you talked about a lot of Grant Cardone, John Maxwell. And of course, your own book is going to be number one. Outside of your own book, what are your two favorite books?
Two favorite books? Man, those are tough. I've read so many good books. Probably the most impactful book is the 10X Rule.
Love that book.
And I've read a ton of books, but that it's got a special place in my heart because where I was at when I read it and how it changed my perspective, and listening to Grant Cardone narrate that book in his Southern twang and the things that he's accomplished with his life. Just a regular freaking guy, did incredible things, and has done for me, for so many other people, and just instilling belief that better things are possible. And that's why I wrote this book. And right on the front cover, you can see that it says, "You are meant to do great things." And I want to be that for people as well. So the 10X Rule, and probably How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I've read it several times, but for similar reasons. I was at a place in my leadership where I was reading leadership books, and I was just like, I'm just not getting what I need out of these freaking leadership books. Like, okay, yeah, there's levels, and I need to progress through the levels, and here's where I am. But how? When I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, it started putting things into perspective about the things that I was lacking and how I could get there, and being interested in people and how to communicate and how to empathize. And, it was my own interpretation based off of where I was. And it's different every time that you go back through a book. If you're truly making progress, you're going to get different things, and it's going to show up differently for you. But those are two incredible books that have imprinted on me and affected my life in such incredible ways at the times when I originally read them. That there's been so many others, but those are top two.
I love that. Again, we're running out of time, but I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you being here. You're an absolute stud. I look up to you. You've helped me a lot. Again, put your book All In there. It's called All In, Get Unstuck, Accelerate, and Go Further Faster by Jefferson Rogers. It is an incredible read. Again, I read it all in one sitting. I couldn't put it down, and I highly recommend everyone else get it too. So I'm here to support you in any way that I can, man, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jonas. Thanks for having me on, brother. Had a blast.
Cool. Talk to you soon.